Today I'll be teaching you how to paint a watercolor line. You can use any reference photo. Well, this is the one I'm using. For painting a line, I started off with wet and wet technique. Using my flat wash brush, I loaded it with water and gave my paper a smooth thin wash, avoiding the eyes and muzzle. Now I'm covering most of his face in yellow ochre using my round brush. You can see it's easier to let the color spread evenly with the wet and wet technique. Dropping in the orange color here and there, but mostly it's yellow ochre which has become the base color of my first wash. To indicate shadows and dark areas, I'm using Prussian blue. I formed my black color by mixing Prussian blue, burnt umber and burnt sienna. I'll be using it for painting black hair on the bottom of the head and those above the forehead. I'm just sliding my brush on wet paper and the colors are spreading on their own, making different textures. For now, I'm just alternating between warm and cool colors. I'm avoiding the areas around the eye and muzzle because they are the lightest parts of the face. Burnt sienna, yellow ochre, some orange and burnt umber, all of those earthy hues bring out the fuzzy furry texture. The colors just bleed out and blend all on their own. Eyes are the most prominent part of line's face. I fill it with yellow ochre first, then just above the pupil I drop in some burnt umber. I paint the rims of the eye with burnt sienna. For the pupils though, I've taken black color straight from the palette and outlined the eye with black as well. Scrubbing my brush with burnt umber underneath the eye, I'm forming some furry details. By now the first wash is dry, it's time for the second wash. I'm wetting the paper again using my flat wash brush. All I'm doing now is using a technique called glazing, which is basically just layering. You start building values. By values, I mean you indicate by layering how dark is the darkest area and how light is the lightest area. So now I'm using the same colors as used in the first wash, but I'm keeping them a lot saturated this time, so the final outlook is sharp and vibrant. Just below the left eye, you can see orange colors from the hair are bleeding onto the face. Because the paper is wet, we can avoid such accidents by using color lifting technique. A clean and dry brush is used to lift color pigment while the paper is still wet. I use this technique many a times because with watercolors, the pigments merge on their own on a wet surface. Their flow cannot be controlled completely. We usually use this trait of watercolor to our advantage since it gives us a smooth blending look, but it can also steer the pigments in undesirable spots, and this is where the color lifting technique comes in handy. On the muzzle, I'm scrubbing my brush to create sharp edges of dark color. It gives the illusion of hair. In the description below, I've explained all the techniques that I've used and also the materials that I'm using. While you're watching this video, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel and comment below to let me know which animal tutorial you want me to make next time. For its nose, I'm using burnt sienna and Indian red. The second wash has also dried, and now comes the most crucial step, which will give the line a definite shape. It might look messed up right now, but you have to push through. You have to keep going forward. So I've used my mixed black paint, added some dark black from coloring palette as well, and started defining fur and strands of hair by making various thin lines with my round brush. You can see how saturated these lines are. I'm using less and less water to keep the color pigment saturated. Towards the end, just before painting the whiskers, I check for the mistakes that I can repair, and here I can see that I can improve on the shape of the nose. So I fixed it using white gouache. White gouache is also used to highlight the white in the eye. Before painting the whiskers, make sure that your paper is completely dry so that sharp white lines can be drawn. If it's not dry, you'll have to go over them again and again in order to make them sharp. I'm using white gouache to paint whiskers. I'm done with the whiskers, and now I can finally call it a finished product. So stay tuned and subscribe to my channel, and do let me know if you find this video informative or not.